Now, our second question is on the climate impacts of agriculture. Yeah. Do you want to? Yeah.
Ireland's agri-sector accounts for 1/3 of greenhouse gas emissions, but only 4.7% of Irish jobs. How will you tackle the agri-sector's disproportionate contribution to climate change? Do you support the proposed expansion of the national cattle herd? And if yes, how will you achieve the national policy of moving towards carbon neutrality in agriculture and land use?
Okay, thank you. We'll go this way again and we'll try to keep to our 2 minutes.
Okay, fine. Thank you for the question. So Fianna Fáil is committed to agriculture is my strong suit being in Dublin Central. Okay, so I'm truly giving you the party line on this one. I apologise if it comes across as such, but that's what it is. So Fianna Fáil is committed to increasing funding to the beef genomic scheme. This scheme, I'm told, will be used to enhance technology, refine feeding processes and reduce emissions. I don't get any disputes the contribution, I certainly don't, and I don't part it as in any way that agriculture is making to our carbon footprint as a country. But I suppose being practical about it and being honest about it, agriculture is also a significant part of our way of life, of our country, of culture, and of employment in the rural community. The CAP will be reviewed in 2017 to strengthen green measures such as carbon sinks, forestation and loss, and this will involve better use of farm technology to reduce emissions. The party does support extension of the national herd, and the 4.5% job figure is considered an underestimation, and that there is more likely 140,000 family farms supporting about 8 almost 9% of the employment. So what I suppose we would try to achieve is a balanced recovery that will support the sustainable livelihoods in rural Ireland. But we do recognise the problem and it will have to be tackled, and try and develop alternative forms of employment over the long term. Okay? Thank you.
One thing that I very much agree in the white paper is that it says we need a national dialogue, a climate dialogue, and I think we need that this year. And I think we should use that as a template for a much wider debate about national development, spatial planning, urban housing, and how we're going to manage our land. Because we need to dialogue around how we manage flooding, we need plans for climate adaptation, as well as looking at mitigation. And I think that dialogue should be front and centre. I think in that...
Stick to agriculture.
Yes, because but that land issue should be dealt with in that national dialogue, and it should be looking at how we manage the land in every way, not just in relation to agriculture. You cannot separate out forestry, you cannot separate out protection of wilderness and biodiversity, it's all connected. And in instances we may be paying farmers for provision of biodiversity or provision of flood protection measures and not just food. And that's why I bring it in.
Okay.
Secondly, I think the current system and the plans to expand agricultural output in the industrial markets, commodity markets for milk powder, for meat and for other dairy products, is not serving Irish farmers, because in the disconnect that exists between the farmers and their own markets, their power has been lost, the profits go to the processor and the large retailers, and it's actually not serving Irish farmers. And a lot of those family farms, Mary, to be honest, are old bachelors who are going to retire at some time in the next 10, 20 years. We need a new form of farming where young people can get access to the land, can get access to growing a whole variety of different crops, and not just crops for international markets, but ones for local markets where they get a better price, they get a better connection with the customers, and they have negotiating power rather than it belonging to all the retailers.
So,
in that different form of agriculture, there's a better future for Irish farming than the one that Simon Coveney is driving down, which suits the large processors, but not the farmers in Ireland.
so do you support the expansion of the...
No.
No. Okay, Richard?
No. I think the government are completely hostage to the big beef barons, essentially. This is one of the major reasons that they are not willing to sign up to serious targets, and we're making special pleading at Paris to try and get out of any sort of agreement that would really deal with climate change. So I think we have to diversify agriculture in a big way away from the sort of large-scale cattle export, live cattle export model, and we have to win the small farmers to understand that actually that would be beneficial to them. Again, forestry is very important in all this, in this regard for multiple reasons. I mean, we explain to people the environmental benefits at every level of forestry, but we need to make it worthwhile for farmers to move to forestry. And one of the big issues that's standing in the way at the moment is the replanting subsidies. That there isn't. There's planting subsidies, but not replanting subsidies, and we need to make it worthwhile for farmers to move into forestry. And also we need to encourage much more sort of localized food production aimed at local markets. So it's not all about transport for the export, the big export markets. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Sorry, we're working with one more.
Goodbye. I suppose just to start, I think one of the big problems we have with our policy in regards to agriculture and environment is that the two very rarely meet. And it's the same in the European Parliament, and it's the same at national level. And we need to have better collaboration between those two departments, because agriculture, we have to accept, it is a big part of the Irish economy. It does account for half of our exports, the agri-food business. So we have to face that reality. Also, we're going to be looking at a question around sustainable rural communities. Sustainable rural communities have to have farming as part of that. That's the natural process. You have to have people working in the rural communities. But we do need to look at the model of farming and the model of farming that's being pursued.
So do you support the proposed
We don't oppose it per se, but what Sinn Féin supports is the small family farm. We don't want to see further intensification of farming. And that's our policy position. And if you look at Michelle O'Neill in the North, who's the Minister for Agriculture, she has shortened the transition period to the flat rate payment, which benefits the smaller farmer rather than the large farmer. Also, just recently on the biodiversity midterm review in Europe, we put forward amendments looking particularly at the greening elements of the CAP. So the Pillar 2 and what's called the ecological focus areas that farmers are to set up. We think that the criteria was too flexible in terms of what member states selected, but we also think that they should have tangible environmental benefits.
So what should agriculture do then?
So agriculture, we want the small family farms, promotion of agroecology that form more organic farmings, definitely not GM. We were very disappointed that the Irish government didn't sign up for the GM cultivation opt-out by the deadline. So we're opposed to that. We want to see further development and implementation of the integrated pest management at farming level, and also then the reforestation. So the greening, so as carbon sinks, we want to see native trees planted, particularly along water courses, that act as not only a carbon sink, but also stop the nutrient runoff into the water courses. So it's about the type of farming that we have in Ireland.
Okay, thank you. Coach?
Thank you.
Definitely, it is about the type of farming and sustainable farming, and I think we are giving an insult to farmers when we say that agriculture and the environment don't meet, or farmers and the environment don't meet, because some of the farmers in Ireland are getting very environmentally conscious. And even if you looked at what was it, EcoEye, or one of the programs, it was on last night anyway, and we had a young farmer there who had transformed his farm into totally organic farming, and pointed out that for his milk now he's getting 62 cents a litre versus 32 for the non-organic farming. So the government is committed to ensuring that sustainable farming, and farmers are being educated. There's a great Chagas programme in ensuring that all young farmers are educated in a sustainable way. So I want to say the farmers are doing their bit. They can't do it all. They can't do everything. I want to say the Foodwise 2025 programme that has been devised and it is a book of initiatives on supporting sustainable farming. Foodwise 2025, that does support, as I say. Again, I want to say the agriculture. Pardon?
Do you support the expansion?
We have signed up to, and Minister Coveney, we are working in conjunction with. Now we have to be realistic and recognise that expansion of the cow or the herd obviously will increase if nothing is done to decrease it. So you have to ensure, and the Minister for the Environment is in discussion at the moment, because the Minister for the Environment and the Minister for Agriculture has to work together to ensure you get best, if you like, value in CO2. And how do you do this? One of the ways, the carbon sinks was mentioned there by Eamon, and the massive increase in carbon sinks to ensure that happens as well in afforestation. And there's a targeted, we may be criticised for not having targets in the climate action, but targets for ensuring forestation right throughout. The other thing as well, the sustainable agricultural industry is definitely given high priority with both the Minister for the Environment and the Minister for Agriculture. But as I said, you can't do it overnight. What the greening programme, establishing Ireland as a world leader in food, green food production, and that's the way we have to go. We have a green island. We've been known for St. Patrick's Day. We can be known for if we promote it further, and that is what the government is going to do, to ensure that we promote Ireland as a green food island. Just on the genetically modified food,
Well, that's actually
there is
outside the
fantastic. No, but I just want to say on treating plants for organic growth and a 30% increase in plants. The University on Limerick and Austin Dara has radio wave technology there that gets rid of all pesticides, gets rid of all environmental pollutants, and treating plants. It's actually been used in other countries. That it should be used in this country as well. So when you radio treat and energise water, you can get rid of all this. You save your rivers, you save your lakes, you save everything else. So that is a new technology that is developed in Ireland, and definitely I can see great growth for it there in increasing food production and saving our environment at the same time.
Thank you. Robert.
I'll try and do this.
Oh, well, you.
Going back to what Eamon Ryan said earlier about the energy white paper and the need for a national conversation on this, I think that is absolutely important, because we must convince farmers that there is a way to make a living with that, while at the same time adopting changes. I mean, an area of the country that I'm particularly familiar with, I won't actually name it in case anyone objects, but I mean, I know from talking to small farmers in that area that, traditionally they do not see trees as a crop. Whereas if you go to a country like Finland, they see trees as a crop. So we do need to try to encourage a change in mentality in the whole farming area. I would be telling a lie if I said we have opposed any increase in the beef herd, but what we have done, in the cattle herd, because I don't listen to beef at all. But we have committed ourselves to measures in the Rural Development Plan 2014 to 20, such as, for example, the 350 million beef data and genomic scheme, which is directed at the emissions of 30,000 beef farmers. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.